Welcome to a Wiser Retirement podcast where we believe the best financial advice should always be conflict free. I'm your host, Casey Smith. Today I'm joined with Marty Paradise from Paradise Business Coaching to talk about the biggest struggles that small business owners face today. Hey, Marty.
How you doing, Casey? Nice to be back on the
Yeah,
podcast.
this is a 3P, right?
3 or 4, I think. So
Maybe. We could talk for hours because I'm being an entrepreneur myself. I love these topics. I guess let's talk just briefly. Whenever I have new business owners that come on as clients, I love sharing my favorite books with them, which is Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand, Marketing Made Simple by Donald Miller. That should be a great marketing tool for any business owner. Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited is one of my favorite books. And then a book that actually sits on my desk right here. Let me reach across the table here. Traction, part of the EOS system, right? I always forget who's the author of that. I always forget.
Gino Wickman. Gino
Wickman, that's right. He'd be insulted.
This is softball, Casey, because those are the 3 basic frameworks that I've been certified in or spend most of my time with all clients.
Yes.
So good segue, Casey.
Which is how I found you, Marty, years ago. Is like, I need to talk to somebody who understands these systems. And you were one of the few people in the country that had all 3 in your head. And that's why we could talk for hours, because there's so many things that we can learn from you. So Marty, let's talk about a little bit about your business. I mean, you have the best name ever, Marty Paradise Business Consulting. I mean, that's pretty good, man.
It has its pluses and minuses. Most clients, most small business owners, who are maybe, to the topic today of struggling, like, we got a coach named Marty Paradise. What's that all about? But yes, that is my real name. And I decided to keep the name as my coaching practice because it is somewhat memorable. But a name like that has, sometimes it's pluses and minuses. When you want people to remember you, they're like, okay. And then when you don't want, they're like, oh, they're anyway. So yeah, that's fun.
So tell me a little bit about your practice and what you're focusing on with your clients right now.
So I'm a small business coach, and I work with clients one to one. So I work with individual business owner operators. I work with business owners who are partners. Some of my clients are married partners, which is a lot of fun too.
Another layer, right?
A whole different layer. And so I have clients, kind of covering the gamut from, I would say very small, $500,000 in revenue, all the way up to 20 million in basically every industry imaginable, and really kind of everywhere in the country. And so I don't do really local coach. Most of my clients are outside of where I live, which is in the greater Charleston area in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. And so I've been doing this for over 10 years. I'm certified in E-Myth. Spent a lot of time with that. I'm certified in Business Made Simple, the first one book and framework you talked about. And I'm on the coach advisory board for Business Made Simple, being on the inside of all things going on with Don Miller and crew. And they've built a great community of coaches and have great plans, and love what I do.
That's awesome. Well, I know that we've had a few listeners engage with you, and as their financial advisor, I see the other side, man. You're doing good things. Obviously they're the heroes, right? You're just the guide, but
just the guide.
I've seen great results, and people speak very highly of your work. So welcome back. So let's go ahead and hit this. There's so many positive things I think happening for business owners right now. But at the same time, I think we're all struggling with certain things, whether that be success or maybe failure in certain areas. But I can't think of a better time to be growing and being an entrepreneur in any other country, no matter who the president is. This is a great place to build and grow things. No, I can't think of another country that people run to unless they're trying to get away from regulation because they're doing something bad. um, that they would rather be here in the good old USA. But we still, the E Myth book is always hits home every time I reference that, because I see so many people that create jobs for themselves, but they don't really build anything beyond a job. So at first they have some freedom, right? And then they eventually are a slave to their job, and forget about, are conflicted with families and everything else that goes wrong with working long hours. So you and just that's why business coaches like you exist, to say, hey, you got to think about this differently. And
Mhm.
I think we got a couple of things I think that we can, or six things here that we can talk about. Let's hit the first one, financial management. So I think that, you know there has to be a process. I think Donald Miller came out with, was it running your business like an airplane, which obviously resonates with me. We have so
With
many
your with your
aviation
with your
clients.
audience,
Yeah,
several
and
pilots, I think, listening to that.
right, and then obviously my background in aviation. But tell me a little bit about, just managing finances as a business owner. What do you see is the biggest struggle, and what resolution should people be trying to use to overcome financial management as business owners?
The one thing, just to back up a little bit. I know the podcast is entitled, the top struggles of a business owner, but one um, way I kind of like, words matter. So you can use the word struggle. You can use the word issue. You can use the word challenge. You could use the word problem. You can use the word, you got whatever term you want, but basically struggles are problems in the business that happen over and over again, that are really preventing the business from reaching its objectives or its goals. And so I'm just thinking about all the various types of struggles or issues that and challenges that business has. It can be overwhelming, but I think, kind of what, as you framed this talk today a little bit, but just breaking it down into the certain main areas of the business. But in my experience, business owners, I think we all have issues. We all have issues, and thinking about them kind of holistically and then zeroing in them is a big thing. But regarding the financial area, challenges or issues, it's interesting to me. First job out of college was selling accounting software. So I worked for an accounting software vendor, very familiar with that. But when I got into business coaching, it was very interesting to find that one of the things that, in being a financial professional, you might get this, but the financial area, technically, clients like to throw that over the fence to their bookkeeper, not really their CPA, but they like to throw all the detail that goes around with financial management to someone else. And so one of the challenges of in the financial area, from an issue of concern, is just, are they spending enough time with their finances? Are they budgeting? Are they forecasting? Are they looking at their numbers? Do they understand what the numbers are telling them? They understand the big three. There's just a lot that goes into issues regarding the financial management area. And I always tell all my clients, once you kind of get a handle on that, you need to outsource. You need to delegate kind of the tactical part of the financial part of the books. But you can only do that if you really understand the pieces and how you're going to step up your game and become more of a business owner. I wouldn't say, most of my clients don't have a CFO, but they do have kind of a controller type person, or a higher level person, or at least a really solid bookkeeper who can kind of keep track of that for you. But raft of issues with regard to money, and so there's a lot to that. So
Yeah, what is that saying? You can't control what you don't measure.
you
Um,
can't manage what you can't measure.
yeah,
And
you can't manage what you can't measure. So yeah, you have to look at your P&L. I would say at least on a quarterly basis. For some businesses, maybe on a biweekly basis. But you have to look at that P&L and you have to understand what it's telling you, and you can change direction very quickly if you see a problem. But if you wait till the end of the year and go, oh, my margins there were only 3%. That's not good. Or I had negative margins. So yeah, I totally get that.
So if my current clients are only looking at their big three or their financial statements, primarily with P&L or in their income statement, they're only doing that three or four times a year. I'm doing something wrong, because that's something I really
Right.
try to like. Hey, I know you've been doing it this way, but you have to eventually. And it's somewhat painful, but you have to forecast from previous year, kind of look at what the next year is going to come up. You got to line that up into a budget, and it's some work getting that mechanics
Yeah.
into your financial systems. But when the hard work, just like any system, once you kind of put it in, you kind of do that work up front, monitoring your P&L and understanding the variances and the reports and what the information is telling you is key. But if you don't kind of do steps A, B, and C to get to that point, it's almost impossible, because you don't trust the numbers. You got
Right.
chart of accounts that are all messed up. You got things categorized incorrectly. I mean, just a lot of hygiene that goes into building a strong financial system.
I've seen P&Ls over the year that were the income. This is a company that sold multiple products. The income was just income, just income. Didn't tell what widget, just income. So yeah, it's it's kind of funny, but at the same time, a lot of times business owners aren't necessarily good with the finances, and they're not supposed to be, because that's not their strong
Right.
suit. Their strong suit is building something and selling it, or another type of service. So it's not something they should be kicking themselves about. They need to understand that they need someone to keep the chart of accounts or keep the books in order, and then they look at those reports to help them make managerial decisions. That's what it comes down to.
It really
Which kind of segues into our next one, which is time management. This is probably got to be the hardest for business owners. You know, people will often say, "Oh, you have your own business, you can just do whatever you want," and you're like, doesn't exactly work that way, does it?
No.
You do have flexibility. You do have flexibility. If you have to be at the kids' recital or you have to be at the kids' whatever, you should be able to make that work. But it doesn't mean there's not a cost to that they're not working later. Right.
So when you think about time management, I kind of think about, when you break down a business into its pieces, Don Miller uses the cockpit to symbolize leadership, but leadership is a time management, priority management, and all the things that go into that is definitely a leadership thing. So if you're not in control of your time, you're not in control of your business, and you have to eventually figure out, where am I spending my time, and am I spending my time on the most important things that are going to grow and scale the business? And unfortunately, a lot of times they're spending time, on the things that maybe somebody else could be doing, or they're spending time on the easy stuff, and then the time just kind of goes. And so balancing time management, thinking about how you kind of deal with that. And, we have kind of from the E-Myth world, we had, just a way of thinking about your business, of kind of the old, are you working in it or you're working on it? And most small business owners are going to be spending, at least in the early stages, are going to be spending 75% of their time in it, doing it. I mean, in the business, where eventually that needs to shift in small increments, because if they're in the business constantly, they're not doing the bigger picture or the strategic work. They're spending so much time in tactical, but they're not hitting the levers that are really going to grow their business. So
I think one of the hardest things as a business owner is saying no. Saying no is going to be one of the hardest things, because you get pulled in so many directions, and it's about, no, I'm not going to do these things. It kind of goes back to setting goals, right? I mean, in the end, if your goals are or staring at you in the face, and you say, okay, outside of being a good husband or spouse and a good father, outside of that, you know, when I say, hey, should I do this event or should I be going here? In that look during business hours, then I'll look
Right.
up and go, well, that doesn't move my needle. That doesn't get me to where I'm trying to get the business, right? So,
Right.
and that's the hardest thing. At least it is for me, because I'm a people pleaser. I think naturally, so it's really hard to say no. I'm not going to do that because that doesn't move the needle for the company. I need to do this, which is difficult at times.
And time management, another business owner skill, just to learn eventually and kind of refine. And this also takes time. It's just sooner or later you need to delegate. You need to delegate things, and just there's this adage is like no one can do this job better than I can, and that thinking has to just eventually go. And then if you can learn to kind of get things off your plate, is a way to think about kind of improving how much time you have available to do things that really
Yep.
do move the needle. So get it completely, but that is a
Which
struggle. That is a challenge. That is an issue. That is a problem. It's also an opportunity for every small business owner to really think about that.
which we really kind of takes us to another point. I'll skip one here. I think this is a good segue, Marty. Human resources. So, man, what a tough time it is right now to find employees. And then when you have employees, we've all had that employee at some point that just drives us crazy. Like it's better for them not to be here, right? And I have so many people that I've leaned on over the years that have told me, fire fast, hire slow. And it's tough to hire slow because sometimes the pain's just like we got to get more people in the door. But then you worry about changing your culture and because of this new person. And there's so many factors when it comes to hiring and managing people. We had a good friend of mine was interviewed recently on a podcast that's very industry focused for financial services. 20,000 downloads an episode. I mean, the huge
Wow.
podcast. We all listen to it, and he he had a great point. He says we're growing so fast that I had to choose between clients doing what they want or making sure that my people are happy. And so you can't have happy clients if you don't have happy people.
Right.
And I was like, wow, that's so true, right? I mean, we have to choose sometimes. Like, am I going to take on all these new clients, or am I going to make sure that my team has good work-life balance so that when they receive phone calls or requests from existing clients, that everything gets done in a joyful manner, right? So and then you try to hire people. We talked about this offline, but you try to hire people right now. It's just tough. It's a whole new world.
I mean, there's a raft of issues and challenges with just I use when you say human resources, to me that's like a department. But
That's true.
and my wife is a chief people officer.
Right.
She's like, we don't use the word human.
Right.
We're saying the same thing, but
Yeah.
the people challenges, finding people, actually hiring them, onboarding them, kind of associated training that goes along with onboarding, getting the kind of right people in the door that fit within the company culture. And so that is things to do, and they're things that are part of um, every challenge I think every small business owner faces. The
Marty,
way
do you, Marty, do
Go
you
ahead.
have a process for hiring that you recommend, or a resource you'd say, hey, go read this or consider this as a hiring process so that maybe people can get it right the first time?
I have a lot of systems I've helped clients develop, which are largely a result of work I've done with clients, learning their best practices. But is there a book on doing this and kind of attracting, developing, and keeping people? Yeah, there's about probably 10,000 of them that are out there, and so I don't necessarily say I would have a favorite book. but I have um, what I call system solutions to kind of go at this problem or this opportunity. And so, and when I think largely about struggles of small business owners, almost every single struggle, problem, challenge, issue, frustration gets down to the lack of a system that's working repeatedly. And so I can look at almost any challenge we're talking about here today. I can
Mm-hmm.
point it down to, and I can point it into something that says, your business isn't doing this, you've got this undesirable pattern of events or issues that are happening in your business. Largely, most of those issues can be minimized, sometimes solved by really thinking through your systems that support that problem or that opportunity. And the challenge is you can only usually work on one thing kind of at a work on one thing at a time. And so small business owners will have issues and they'll talk about this, but you really have to kind of take some of the approaches of solving problems. E-Myth is really big into this, like the third or fourth thing a client does in the E-Myth program. EOS has a whole, out of their 6-point model, one of the 6 areas is issue solving. And so it's a big deal in developing a kind of a systematic way, thinking about identifying issues, discussion issues, and kind of prioritizing issues that need work. And that's some work, but that's all about developing a business that works. And that's a lot of clients are working on how to do that, how to streamline, how they
Basically,
attract.
how to create a process. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so it's a process or it's a system, and so when you say the term human resources is the main thing or people, um, it's multi-layered, and so for example, if your real problem is keeping good people,
Yeah.
why just think so the thinking about a system actually to unpack an issue, and there's different ways of doing this. EOS has a 3-step process, eMyth has a 7-step process. There's the 5 why process of going in and asking why until you get really down to the root causes. But um, most types of issue problem solving approaches really need to get down to kind of the core of what's going on. And that's where you need to try to put focus and energy on looking at kind of the root cause. And that's sometimes hard to do. It's usually hard to do, but thinking about your business that way and getting down to kind of root cause, and you can only solve kind of one of these things at once, and just systematically going after the problem and putting processes and systems to support a better outcome in that area is key.
Are you curious why annuities keep coming up as a potential investment option? People are often told that annuities can effectively mitigate investment risks and help secure their financial future. However, annuities often benefit the salesperson and might not be the best choice for you as a consumer. To learn more about the various types of annuities, the negatives of owning them, and better investment alternatives, we have a free ebook on our website just for you. To download our ebook, Buyer Beware, Why Do They Keep Trying to Sell You That Annuity? Simply click the link in the episode notes or visit wiserinvestor.com/guides. Now let's get back to the episode.
Moving on to our next topic, marketing and customer acquisition. I understand how people could struggle with, hey, I got to find more clients. I do. But man, I'm in an industry that we used to have to pound the pavement. You go to networking events, you shake a bunch of hands, and it's hey, I'm in the financial services industry, and I don't do any of that. I very rarely leave my office. And there's a system that we have in place, that a process, right? Just like you were talking about a second
Mhm.
ago, that drives leads to our firm
Yeah.
without us having to go out and do anything. I mean, I tell new advisors here, it's like, I don't want you going to networking events. Honestly, we have enough work to do here as it is. So do you think that, and I think I know the answer to this, but do you think that the Donald Miller, story brand, marketing made simple, that could almost be applied to any industry, that anybody's
Absolutely.
looking for you online, right? Or even not online? Even if you're still out there networking, shaking hands, collecting emails is really key.
Yeah, the email marketing is, you're doing that. You've got your podcast and some of the things I see from my vantage point, but email marketing is really big. And so gone are the days of kind of the traditional ways of doing
Yeah.
that. But
And to be clear, we're not buying lists or anything.
right.
It's people coming to do a download. It's people finding us and then downloading,
Mhm.
and you collect the email. They go into a drip campaign. That drip campaign drips on them for about 5 weeks. There's a hard ask at the end. I mean, it's a systematic process over and over. I think we're up to maybe 25 landing pages now outside of our
Wow.
homepage.
Wow.
And and working on SEO almost a weekly basis. Thank goodness I don't do any of this. We have Hadley here who's doing a lot of this work, and Alexa who's overseeing it. And then I'll plug Evanced. Evanced does all our web stuff for us and all of our Google ads. It's to me, I didn't trust it. I didn't trust the system. And I was like, why would anybody do this? And finally, someone who was advising me said, well, if it didn't work, there would be no marketing industry.
Right.
I was like, oh, that makes sense. But do you have
Why
clients?
didn't you trust it?
Because it was expensive.
Right.
Right. I mean, I look at it and go, holy crap, I'm going to spend that amount per month. But then if you think about your acquisition cost to what the lifetime of a client is, you kind of back into it and you go, oh, I'd pay that for that. That makes sense. Right.
Sure.
And of course it's easier when you're bigger. I think if you were just starting out in any business and you're like, I got to spend $5,000 a month in Google ads. I mean, what if it doesn't work? And I only got $25,000 in my pocket. That could be a struggle. But I mean, in my mind, I don't think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but people aren't always coming to you going, hey, I need to grow my business, right? Or are they?
Clients who are coming to me definitely want to grow. It's one of their kind of primary drivers. But a lot of them are also looking to. The biggest struggle I have with every single client, every single one, is they want their businesses too dependent on themselves. Bar none. Every single client, they might not say it exactly that way, but they just are overwhelmed. They're doing everything. They're wearing all the hats. They're having to worry about marketing and customer acquisition and email drip campaigns and organizing HubSpot systems and
Right.
podcasts. I mean, you name it. Their CRM system and just everyone. These are things when you're small, you've got to be. You don't have a marketing department. You don't have an HR department. You don't probably have a big financial team. And so they're all kind of in the weeds in these areas, and they need to kind of break through to do that. But a lot of them, my clients that come to me are like, God, I just wish this thing would just run with a little bit less of Casey or a little bit less of me. It's their dream. And it can happen. It can happen. It's some work to make that happen, but that's probably the number one struggle above everything else. And all these areas you're talking about just are part of that overall big struggle or problem.
That's in the first couple of chapters of eMyth, I think, is where they talk about building out your organizational structure, and you build it out, not how it is, but how you want it to be in the future.
It to be. Mm-hmm.
And I still do that. I keep journal. Every time I think about this stuff, I write it down, and I go back 4 or 5 years ago, and it's somewhat the same, but then you learn things. You're like, really didn't need that there. We could have done it this way, you know? Um, yeah, it all kind of what you
That's
just said.
part of your, yeah, that's part of your people, your human resources area. Just what's your organizational strategy? And there's that process that you're reading about in the book, is just like thinking about how many hats you're wearing,
Yeah,
what positions you're in, and quite frankly, you could be in this box, this box, this box, this box, the owner operator box, and maybe probably some others. But how do you eventually think about eventually firing yourself from those positions, hiring a Hadley or hiring someone to do this and to do this and
right.
to this, and it just gets back to freeing up your time and making other people kind of doing the work of the business. But yeah, that's or small businesses, even if you're 2 or 3 people, you need an org chart. And your name's going to be
Absolutely.
in a lot of boxes.
Right. Well, on the same lines of marketing, you have building a brand, and those are two different things.
Yep.
Marketing, client acquisition, you're grabbing clients, building clients, but there's also just the brand of your business. I tell them this way: it's like it's me advertising or sponsoring the art museum. Name's up on the front of the art museum, but it's just building a brand. They recognize it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where marketing is the drip campaigns and the white paper downloads and the free advice, right? Just to kind of get people hooked on what we can do for them. And it'd be, you work with a client, I know, that does like SEO work, right? Search engine optimization kind of stuff, web work. It'd be like them saying, these are 3 tips, that make your website more visible. And then you download that, and then you then send them some emails every so often saying, hey, don't forget about us. We can help you with this. Branding is just more of people recognize the brand. Coca-Cola
Right.
would be a good idea of a brand,
Great,
right?
great idea.
So,
Yeah, and so I like separating what you're talking about. I think about lead. I call that lead generation is different than marketing strategy or brand building of the company, and they kind of go hand in hand. But
sponsoring Little League is not going
building a
to
brand as a small business with limited resources, you need to start. And a part of that is just even
Yeah.
getting back to some simple things like, what's your brand promise? What do you want every customer to know about you and think about you, and how you're going to deliver on that each and every time? And over time, that kind of steps up, and you build a brand. But
Yeah, marketing Little League baseball teams is not going to probably drive clients to you, but it does put your name out there and people see it and recognize it. So, but yeah, I think people struggle with the difference between the two, because so many people go, oh yeah, we advertise, we do these 3 things. And, I'm not a business coach, but in my head, I think, oh, that's not gonna get you any clients. You need a process for client acquisition, right? And there's a way to do that. And quite honestly, I think one of the best ways to build a business brand, but also collect leads at the same time, are Google reviews. Like, why are companies not doing this? Restaurants do it, I think, because restaurant, man, I feel sorry for them, because you have one waiter had a bad day, and now all of a sudden there's like a 1-star review. But we have 101, 102 5-star Google reviews of our firm. And that's very powerful, because when people move to town, they don't know who to contact. They don't have a whole strong network here. They rely on things like that. So if you're a home builder, or if you're whatever it is that you do, if you can claim that Google spot, your Google business, even Bing, there's a Bing business too, and get reviews going on both. That is a great way to start driving more traffic towards your business.
Absolutely. And that's when I work, and you and I have talked about this in the past. I think one of our first conversations about key performance indicators. 2 clients this week, when we're kind of building that out, just to start tracking positive 4+ Google reviews. And it is absolutely critical not only to be getting the 4 and 5-star reviews, but also looking at kind of the problems or issues of why someone gave you that crappy review or rated you a 2 or a 3 or something, which is obviously you don't want, but you learn from those over time. But yeah, if you're doing, Google reviews and you're making that part of your process, is absolutely critical. In fact, I have a few clients actually that they're building that into their sales system. And so where they have a whole sales system, and it really, it's kind of set up front. We're going to do this work. At the end of the work, we've got kind of these steps we're going to go through, make sure you're satisfied. And then, at the end, we do want you to give us a good Google review. And you see this in everywhere now.
You
do, whatever you're doing. I was in Florida last week, and I used 3 rover sitters, and like they're on me to watch my dog while I was traveling into some Airbnb. Like I'm just getting banged up for like Google reviews and positive reviews, even on their platform. But it's so powerful. I mean, it is powerful.
It is. We take that even a step further in that we do MailChimp, or I'm sorry, SurveyMonkey. So at the end of each of our major planning, so the initial planning and then the review meeting, any review meeting, we send them a survey and we ask them some key questions. And then that gives us an opportunity. If they had a problem, they can fill that out. It gives us an opportunity to address it before it hits a Google review.
Okay.
So hopefully, right before they go to Google, then we've addressed the issue. And quite honestly, we haven't had any issues. I've had one person leave us a 1-star review. I remember it like it was yesterday, and it wasn't a client; it was a prospect. And basically, I think one of our advisors was just had a bad day. Maybe he's a little grumpy, but basically, yeah, it was like he told her she shouldn't be investing, and she shouldn't have been. She had $20,000 in credit card debt, and she wanted to invest, like $50,000 inheritance. And so he's basically saying, hey, you need savings first, and you need to get rid of this credit card debt. And then once you've decided to do that, give us a call back. Well, I was at a Chick-fil-A with my family, and I remember I saw the review come across. I looked up the name in our scheduler, and I called her right away. I went to the car. I put down my meal. I didn't even eat my dinner that night. I called her and I said, "Hey, let's talk through this." And she went back and she changed it to a 5-star review, which I didn't ask her to do.
Okay, nice.
But I just said, "Hey, let's talk through this." And I told her the same thing. I just told her a different way. So yeah, it can be moments of panic.
In all your age and wisdom and charm from doing this for years and years and years. Yeah, sounds like your financial advisor maybe was having a bad day, maybe being a little bit too blunt, and then the prospect was probably thinking she had some unrealistic expectation. Maybe she was having a bad day, and those two together. I'm glad you fixed that, Casey. That's awesome.
That $50,000 to her may have been 10 million based on her lifestyle. Yeah. So it was a big number, but yeah, there's like, there are certain things you have to do. And so as a business owner, man, that would drive me crazy if you just kept getting 1-star reviews, but also, hey, maybe it fixes the problem. And if I was running a restaurant, you can't really control that because, especially like fast food or something, but you can start reading them, and then you can start fixing things, and you can drown out the negatives with the positives. And hopefully a year or two later, right, then there's, all the problems are gone. But the same way with VRBO or Airbnb rentals, people leave feedback. I've not rented places because of the feedback. I've read, dirty, rats, Ooh,
no. Where are you looking? Where are you going on vacation?
No, there's just some really good pictures out there, and then you start reading the reviews, and you realize that it's never prepped properly, or all these people have problems, or the owners are unresponsive, and you're like, I don't really want to deal with that. So it's out there for a reason. Last one, man, this is something that I'm even struggling with, and maybe everybody does. But there's starting a business, there's delivering good service, and that it's working. But then you got to scale it. Man, is that difficult? Marty's
Yes.
nodding his head for those of you not watching the
Like,
video.
I'll just say yes. I don't know where I go with that one.
I mean, how do you scale a business? I think it takes a unique individual to scale fast, efficiently. I think you have to be a little ruthless maybe at times in your decision making when it comes to people. And because Marty, let's be honest, the people that got you from point A to point B are not going to be the same people that get you from point B to point C. Your personnel is going to have to change. People have to have a big mindset. They also have to be on that bus of growth and busyness, and and not everybody wants to do that. Some people just want to come to work, punch a couple of keys, and go home.
You're missing one. The leader also has to change. The different mindset of kind of starting your little baby and kind of getting it going and getting a few employees and getting some wins,
Okay.
getting some success, maybe making some money, making a profit, but like to take it to the next level, not only need people, but the leader has to have a mindset of how am I going to take this business to the next level? How am I going to scale it? How do I go about doing that? Where do I need to start scaling? What's working? What's not working? How do I think about the type of systems I need? Because the only way you really can scale a business is you develop systems in just repeatable ways. So things just kind of happen. Friction, I use the term friction free, but just getting to the point where your business can kind of run and scale. The only way you can do that, great leadership helps, great employees help, success helps, but to scale it, you do need to develop kind of repeatable systems for all these areas of the business that we've been talking about for the last 45 minutes.
Every Chick-fil-A I go to across the country has the same sandwich. It tastes the same. It has the same tea that tastes the same, has the same my pleasure after they hand it to me. Man, what a great example of how to build and scale something. I guess Ray Kroc at McDonald's was the first version of that. But
Right.
yeah, Ben, it's hard to do, especially in a service-based business. But we're working hard here to figure that out. I think we've made we're probably 80% there.
Good for you.
But it's you think about from our standpoint is what is financial planning, and you have to write a process that everybody in the firm, every advisor, every associate is checking off these boxes as they go through the process, that everything has been touched, it's supposed to be touched, that there were no shortcuts. Right. And now you could have bad people and you could check a box that I did this. Yeah. Well, it wasn't done. That's a whole nother problem. But repeatable processes down to even we don't, we sell trust here. We don't sell products, but you think about a business that sells products, even just your conversation on how to sell a product, that should be the same, right? There's so many things that you have to keep writing a process for. We call them workflows. We have workflows here, and I think we're up to 30 something workflows.
Really? Wow. Good for you. How many are those all automated in? Are those all automated in a financial planner kind of system that it kind of where you can keep all that together?
So at most times we have 40 financial plans in the queue.
Okay.
And so I can go into the workflow and I can see exactly where each family is and where they are in the process. This is where I'm excited about AI in the business. There's so many things that I have to do for like my visual dashboard. I don't have it written down anywhere, but it's really painful to go from system to system to get it. Where someday I feel like you could overlay technology to be able to just bring that to me, right? I'm excited about that in our industry. Hopefully someday soon.
Well,
but
and the other and as you know, scaling the business and putting systems in, it's not like you can just do it just let it run and just and be done with it. You're always innovating on systems and making it better, but you have to start with a way of doing it. I don't know, like your client intake process, and how your second meeting, you've probably done, 50 rinse and repeat cycles, getting that honed the way you want it to work within the business. That's also a challenge, but you need to start from somewhere. But once the base systems are kind of put in place, how we do it here, it's a lot easier to innovate on something that's kind of written down, that's kind of been tested, and people have gone through it. And you've got feedback from clients, you get feedback from employees, you get feedback on how it's really working, about the results that is providing. And then it's just making it cleaner, making it more effective and efficient. But that can take some time, as you know.
Yeah, I would say even if you're a solo person, you have to start building those processes and write them down. That's how originally, before we had CRM, that's how we did it. All the workflows are written down in Word, and it was kind of a big manual that sat there, and you could flip the page. I had to do it a couple of times. I don't know how to send this, buy and send a stamp. Supposedly we print them out or something. I don't know how to do any of that. And one night late, I was like, I need a stamp. Oh, there's no more stamps. I get to print some stamps. Oh, this is bad. I was like, oh, I got this book. I remember reading the step-by-step, log into stamps.com, input into paper, into printer, but yeah, that's just a simple example. But if you
I would have said, wait till someone who comes in the next day. That can wait. That can wait.
Oh, maybe not wait that night. I don't know what it was, but I know I was in the book.
Love it.
Yeah. So Marty, I think to summarize all this, it sounds like we've got to be better about removing ourselves from the business. We can only do that by creating processes, repeatable processes for others to be able to do those things, right? And guidelines. And by doing that, we get some of our time back to focus on new verticals or family or maybe another business or whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish long term. I think, and that's all good advice. I think it's really hard to execute for people when it's their baby, but in the end, your company's really not worth much. If it's just all about you, if you die and the company dies with you, it's really hard to sell something that relies solely on you.
Right. Absolutely. And to your listeners, one kind of piece of advice I might give is that, and this might sound overly simple, very few business owners maybe do this habitually, but start an issues list. Take an issues and just notice, and it can be something simple in Word, it can be in Excel. It doesn't have to be real complicated, but just start like a list of things that are going wrong, issues, frustrations, challenge, and it could be anything. It could be anything. Excuse me, but the idea, and break these issues kind of by kind of these major 6 functions of a business, but then eventually you have to look at each of these issues and saying, well, your stamp example, that wouldn't necessarily be one that I would probably put to the number priority 1 or 2 list or whatever. That's an issue. Like, we need a procedure for this, or a system for this office procedure that somebody else should be doing. Great. Casey experienced it late night while he's trying to get a book out for a client. It's kind of like, start getting in the habit of listing and documenting your issues and really point out what's going wrong. Then there's another step of like saying, okay, what's this issue costing me? Clients, employees, whatever. What is this issue costing my business? And getting a handle, doesn't have to be exact, but what is the cost of this issue in my business? And getting them into a list is probably the first step that I would advise your listeners to do. And then once you have that done, you have a way to start thinking about, how do I go systematically solve these things? And with all my clients, I tell them in their quarterly plan, they're working on their key numbers, they're working on their key measurables, and working on some business building things as part of their priorities. But I'm also asking them, like, what are 1 or 2 issues that you want to solve? Usually it's minimized so that issue doesn't keep repeating forever, because these can stack up on you. And so handling issues, solving issues, struggles is a business owner's skill. And there's ways to do this, and you have to have a way of thinking about them. So hopefully they go away and you just make, the business achieves its goals and the owner spends less time in the business. There's less problems, and it's a beautiful thing. So
it's a journey for sure.
It's a journey. It's a journey.
We have a couple of other episodes listeners might be interested in. Episode 176, Tips to Grow and Scale Your Small Business with Marty Paradise. Episode 138, Making Your Business Less Dependent on You. That is in our show notes. You can link directly to that. We also have a YouTube channel, A Wiser Retirement. 2 couple of videos, how to reduce taxable income as a business owner, and then tips to growing your small business. Those are all additional resources. We also link to Paradise Business Coaching on our show notes as well, where you can connect with Marty. Marty, thank you for coming back on and doing this. These always go a little longer than our normal podcast, just because these are important topics, and we could sit here and talk for hours. Just when you were kind of finishing your last sentence there, I was thinking about, goal setting, business goal setting, so important, right? And what I call is moving rocks, right? Those are the rocks you got to move to get to your goal. All those things that keep getting in the way. So we could have a whole nother episode on that. Anyway, thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in learning more about Wiser Wealth, you can schedule a consultation with us online. And again, if you want to see Marty, I think you can book with him online or reach out as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Marty. We'll see you next time. Thank you, listeners.
All right, Casey. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thanks for listening to a Wiser Retirement podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss any new episodes. We'd also appreciate if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about anything that was discussed today, head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out.
This episode was produced by Edward Resendez.
This podcast is strictly for informational purposes only and is not to be considered as investment advice or a solicitation to buy or sell any financial products, securities, digital assets, or any other investment vehicles, or a basis to make any financial decisions. Wiser Wealth Management Incorporated is a registered investment advisor with the SEC. The host and/or guest may personally own securities, digital assets, or other investment vehicles mentioned on this podcast. Neither the host nor guest of the show are compensated for their participation, and no referral fees are paid to or received by any host or guest for clients, listeners, or similar interests. Investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, insurance professional, and/or legal professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.